Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session. I'm just watching and waiting for people to jump in here. As I'm seeing people roll in, I'm just going to go ahead and get started with some housekeeping items. First of all, I just want y'all to know that the audio is going to come through automatically through your computer speakers. We've got some of the webinar phone information here. If you're having trouble with that, you can join via phone. Also wanted to mention that the recording of this webinar will be sent to you via email a couple of days after the session. And we're also going to be having a Q&A discussion at the end for anyone that has questions. You can look in your Zoom control panel. There's a Q&A button there that you can use to put your questions in throughout the session. On behalf of everyone at Rev.io, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. I'm Lori Brown. I'm the product trainer here at Rev.io. And backed by popular demand, today we're going to be discovering what's new in Rev.io. We're going to continue to do these webinars through the course of the next year, probably quarterly. So make sure that you're on the lookout, be on the lookout for those notifications so you can join and find out what's new in Rev.io as it happens. All right, for anybody just joining us, welcome. We're going to go ahead and get started here. The first slide here I have is just a list of some of the items we're going to cover today. Again, you'll get this presentation emailed to you at the end of the session. So we're going to jump in and talk about our first item. And again, you guys should see that Q&A button there on your control panel. So if you have questions as we go, we've got someone monitoring those questions. If they're simple questions, they'll answer them right away. And if it's something we need to discuss, then we'll have time for that at the end of the session. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is the adjustment approvals now will respect user limits. So in Rev.io, when you set up your users, you go to settings and users, and on the limits tab for each user, you can, if you choose, put a maximum credit limit there that they would be able to approve. In the adjustment functionality, if you're using adjustments and you know you have to go to the activity adjustment view to approve those adjustments, and before there was no connection between these amounts. So now if you have a user who goes in to approve an adjustment, if they have the permission to approve adjustments, it's going to respect whatever credit limit you have here. So if this credit limit were lower than the adjustment amount here, they would see an error message here that says you can't approve this adjustment because it's greater than your credit limit. So that will help alleviate some of those concerns that we've had. That's in settings and users using that credit limit, and then the approve adjustment permission as well. Next up, we have the ability to create credits on child accounts. And you guys have probably all noticed this, but I'm going to give you some tips for managing this. So to avoid having any kind of balance issues on your parent-child accounts, this only really affects those accounts that are set up with a parent-child structure. We have disabled the ability to apply credits at the child level to avoid those credits kind of getting stuck with the child and not flowing through to the entire hierarchy of the account. You can go to the parent account and post your credits there. You can even post the credits to a specific child account or even to a specific bill or specific item on that child account. And the way you're going to do that now, so you won't be able to post credits at the child account in any of the places that you used to be able to. But if you go to the parent and you post your credit, it can be a payment or a credit, and you switch to manual post mode, you'll be able to switch to bill or service item, and you'll be able to select the bills or the individual service items. Just by clicking the bill or service item here, you can choose the bill IDs that you want to apply it to if there's multiple bills. and then it'll list each of the child accounts here. And then whether you apply it by the bill or by the individual line item on the bill, you can apply the amounts over here to the exact items that you want it to apply to. So posting the credits on the parent account using the switch to manual post mode option is how you're going to get those credits to apply to the specific child accounts. Let's talk about recurring credits. So sometimes you'll create a product that has a monthly recurring charge, and it also comes along with a monthly recurring credit. And you want both of those items to show on the customer's bill. Let's say the item is $50 recurring, a recurring charge of $50, and maybe there's a $10 recurring credit. In the past, if there was a past due amount on the customer's account, when it applied the credits, it would always apply the credits and they would fall through sort of to the oldest balance on the account. And now we've made a change where if there is a recurring credit, this is for recurring credits, credits that are set up to apply every month, they're going to now apply first to the bill that they're generated with instead of falling through and applying to the oldest charges. So by default, any recurring credits that you have set up to apply every month are going to apply with the charges that they're generated with, and they won't apply to those oldest balances unless there's an overage. If there's an overage of the credit amount on the bill, then it will revert to the standard behavior and apply to the oldest outstanding charges on the account. All right, the display of our one-time charges and credits was a little hard to navigate when you were trying to reverse charges and repost MRCs and that kind of thing, because they all looked the same. They had a date range. One-time charges and credits this one would have said 11/13 to 11/13. So the system, when it generates these one-time charges, if the date range is the same, it's going to collapse it and just show the date one time so that they stand out now as one-time charges and credits. When they're system generated charges or credits, by default, it will collapse them. If you go and put a manual charge or credit on, as long as you leave both dates the same, it will collapse those as well. Now, there may be times when you need to have a one-time charge or credit actually apply to a date range. And as long as you populate those two date fields differently, it will show the date range here. But by default, if the date is if it's a true one-time, one-day item, and you populate the dates the same, it's going to collapse it. And that way those one-time charges and credits become a little bit easier to see on the unposted tab of the billing and collections section of the account. Again, if you guys have questions, make sure that you're throwing those in that Q&A button. Leslie's online. She's going to answer some of the quick ones as we go. And then again, we'll take all the questions that we need to talk about at the end. Next up, we have product level disconnect proration. So in the past, if you remember, the product catalog had a setting for each product where you could determine whether that product prorated on connect or not. And the proration on disconnect happened at the bill profile level. It was not at the individual product level. So we created a new option. And if you want to use this functionality, if you have the need for this, you would need to contact client success and put in a ticket so that we can turn this back end option on for you. You can't turn this on yourself. And then we need to work with you to know which of your products you would like to set to prorate and not prorate so that we get it right going forward. So you'd want to put in a ticket with client success if you have the need for this. But what it does is when we in the back end turn this option to true, before on the bill profile, you would have a prorate disconnects here. And on the product, you would have a prorates option on the product for Connect. So this was for prorate disconnect. This is for prorates on Connect. So if we turn it to true, now the option goes away on the bill profile, and then you'll have two options on each product now, prorate on activation and prorate on disconnect. So you have the options at the product level for both connect and disconnect prorations here, if we turn this to true. So again, if you need the ability to be able to, at a product level, disconnect, have prorations on disconnect, then just submit a ticket to client success and tell them that that's what you need to do, and they'll help you work through getting all of your products. They'll turn the setting on and then help you get on top of making sure that the settings are correct for each of your products. Okay, this one is just a little bit of clarification. So in the past, when you're in the billing and collections section of Rev.io, for each bill that's listed here that has a balance remaining, it used to say balance right here in the grid columns. And that was a little bit confusing. People would get confused with whether this was the balance on the account, whether it was the balance on the bill, or what it was. It used to say balance right here. So we changed this just to be a little clearer, and now it's called remaining. And so really, this is the remaining balance on each of these bills. So any bill that has a balance remaining will show here. If it's past due, it'll show in red. And the column header is remaining now and not balance, so that it's a little bit clearer that it's not the balance on the account, which was a bit confusing. Now, if yours, when you log out and log back in, yours should say remaining here instead of balance. If for some reason it doesn't, there's a little gear over here on the customize link, and you can click that and then check remaining, and then it'll force that change to happen. It'll change the header from balance to remaining. All right, payment confirmation screen. This is another one that I'm sure you guys have already found. Anytime you make a payment on a customer account now, you get a payment confirmation screen. So in this manner, you can, when you make your payment, this is when you've clicked the payment button on the account and you filled out your payment information. And instead of it just taking the payment as it did before, now you get a payment confirmation screen. And there's a couple of things you can do with this. You can make sure you double check that the payment was put on the correct account, that you've got the correct payment method, the receive date, the reference number, those kind of things. It shows you exactly what charges that payment was applied to, so you can double check that. And it gives you the option to make a few of those changes. If the payment was made a mistake, if there was something wrong with it, you can easily reverse that payment right here before you even accept it. You can change anything here that it lets you change, and then when you hit save, that will save the payment and take you back to the account. Or you can hit cancel. Cancel does the same thing as save. It's just if you've made any changes, save will save your changes. Either of these. Cancel doesn't cancel the payment. If you want to cancel the payment, get rid of the payment, you would need to use the reverse payment button here. You can also reapply the payment to certain charges. We're going to talk about that on the next screen because that's additional functionality that we have enabled as well. So you can double check those payments, make sure that they're correct, make sure you've got them on the right account before you even add them. So that is the payment confirmation screen. You can also view that payment as a PDF if you needed that. And then to talk about the reapply payment functionality a little bit more. So if you choose to reapply payments, you can do that from the payment confirmation screen that we just looked at. You can do it right away when you make the payment. You can also go back and reapply payments on payments that you've already made. The caveat to that is that you can only reapply the payment if that payment has not been put on a bill yet. So when you create your bills every month, the system gathers up all of the unbilled charges and credits, and any payments that have been made, and then it applies that to the bill. You'll see a payment amount if there was a payment made. So as long as that payment hasn't been shown on a bill yet, you can reapply the payment. So this is permission based. You would have to have the reapply payments permission in order to do this. And you can access it, like I said, right from the payment confirmation screen if you notice it then, or you can go back to any payment that's not been on a bill yet, and you can click options and show details, and then select reapply payment. You can reapply the payment. Again, this is similar to the manual post mode item that I showed you earlier. You can distribute it by different bill IDs, by the different child accounts if necessary, or you can go down to the individual service item and apply it at that level if you need to do that as well. This is audit logged, so you can always tell when someone on the team has reapplied a payment as well. And remember that in Rev.io, the default behavior is that payments always apply to the oldest balance first, unless you do something to change that behavior, like reapplying the payments or switching to manual post mode. All right. Lots on payments lately. So the next item is bulk payments posting by bill ID. So this one, in the past, we've always had, when you go to customers, post payments, and you can choose the tab that says add from file. And this is where you can download that template, fill it out, copy and paste in or whatever you're going to do, and then upload your file and process it. And then you can process those payments in bulk in that way from the template. The template has not changed. There's always been a field in the template called bill ID. And in the past, if you populated the bill ID in there, it was more of just an identification item. It helped us find which account that payment needed to be applied to, but it always did still apply when you were doing them in bulk like this. It always applied to the oldest balance first, regardless of whether you populated that bill ID or not. So now we've made a change. We added this functionality here. So if you populate the template and you populate the field called bill ID with a valid bill ID, and then you check this functionality here, if you put a check in this box that says apply to invoice ID, then when you process this file, if this is checked, it will apply that payment specifically to that bill ID. Now, if the bill ID is invalid, or if the payment is more than the bill, than the balance on that bill, any overage or anything that doesn't apply, or if the bill ID field is blank, then it's going to revert to that default behavior and apply anything else to the lowest, the oldest balance on the account. So as long as you populate the bill ID in the template and check this option here, it will apply it to that bill ID if it can find one. Again, no changes need. If you don't want it to apply to the bill ID, you can just leave it blank, or you can populate it and not check this item. Either one of those behaviors would just apply it to the oldest balance. Okay, BILLCENTER payments on specific bills. Lots of functionality around making payments to specific bill IDs this go around. So in the BILLCENTER configuration right here, when you're setting it up on the settings tab, when you go to settings, BILLCENTER configuration, and you're on this settings tab, there is a new option called allow applying payments to specific bill. If you check this in your BILLCENTER configuration, when your customers log into your BILLCENTER, they're now going to see this drop-down field, and it says apply to bill, and there's a drop-down list, and any bill that has a balance on it will show up in that drop-down list. If there is only one balance, only one bill with a balance, you'll see that bill. If there's multiples, they'll be able to choose. There's also, this works in conjunction with a permission that we added, and there's a permission for the BILLCENTER users that's called must manually apply BILLCENTER payments. And if you turn that permission on for BILLCENTER users, then that's going to force your customers, when they log into the BILLCENTER, to have to choose which bill they want it to apply to. So you don't have to use this permission. You can just let them have the option of whether they want to apply it to a specific bill or not. If you want to force them to have to choose what bill it applies to, then you'd want to turn this permission on. And again, if no bill ID is chosen, the system is just going to pay the oldest balance first by default. Okay. The next item is another BILLCENTER item. This one is AUTOPAY message. So you can now display a message to your customers when they are going to enroll in AUTOPAY or auto debit. And that's in settings and BILLCENTER configuration. And this one's on the configuration tab. And it's a field called AUTOPAY message. And when you populate something in here and save it, then when your customers go to enroll in AUTOPAY, this note will display now here for them to see. In this case, the note says, when enrolling in AUTOPAY, any overdue balance may be automatically withdrawn from the specified account as early as the day immediately following enrollment. So any kind of notification you choose to give to your customers, you don't have to use it. This is an optional field, but if you want some sort of note or message to display here, then you have the ability to do that right there. Okay, hiding $0 products in BILLCENTER or your customer portal. So if you go to settings, product catalog, and you pick a product and go to the restrictions tab, there is now an option called hide in customer portal if $0 service product. So this is great for those products that you have to set up for the system to behave the way you want it to behave. For instance, those $0 activation products that some of you use, or the free minute products. If your free minute products are $0 and the cost of those minutes is included in the base user price, but you have to put the free minute products on for our system to work correctly. Anything that's a $0 item, if you choose to hide it here, then those $0 products won't show to the customer in BILLCENTER when they go to the BILLCENTER. So you can turn that off, hide in customer portal if $0 service product. All right, collection emails have a CC and a BCC field now. So when you're in settings and collection templates and you're setting up those email letters that are going out to your customers when they are past due, there is now a line here that includes the CC and a BCC field, so that the customers, if there's someone that needs to get a copy every time one of these email collection notices go out, you can populate that in the CC field or in the BCC field, and those individuals will get copied on every email collection notice that goes out of the system now. Another update to email templates. So this one is the ability to add an attachment to an email template. So any of your email templates now, if you go look at them, there is an attachment area here. You can choose files, drag and drop, whatever. Once you get a file in there, you'll be able to see what file it is. But if an email notification is going out of the system, if something's triggering an email to go out of the system to notify your customers of anything there, you can include this attachment. It would be something generic. It's not going to pull something from a specific customer account, but if you have a form that needs to go out, or if you have some sort of collateral that needs to go out with a certain email notification, you can now upload those files right there in the email template configuration. This is another one that some of you might find useful. We now have the ability to put a page break for those parent-child bills. If you want the system to put a page break in there between every child account, we can do that for you now. Again, you can't configure this one within the UI. It's a setting behind the scenes that we would have to configure for you. So if you want to turn on page breaks between child bills, you would just need to put in a ticket with our client success team, and they can handle that for you pretty easily. Just turn on that option, and then it'll automatically put that page break in there between each child account on the parent's bill. It is set to false by default. So if you want to turn that on, just contact client success and put in a ticket with us, and we'll help you with that. Okay, for those of you who are pulling reports out of Rev.io, you've written a report, you're pulling it, subscribing to it, and you can email or FTP this report result, and maybe you're uploading it into another system. In the past, some of you were having to go in and do a little bit of formatting on those reports before you could upload them into the other system. And now we've given you a couple of options that might help eliminate some of that manual formatting. So the two items are right here: hide header row and trailing carriage return. So hide header row is just that. If you were having to go in and edit the file and remove the headers, the field names, if you click this now, it will automatically hide those field names, that header row for you. And then trailing carriage return, when the reports generate, the cursor, it's kind of hard to explain, but the cursor sits in the last cell that has data in it. And so if you didn't go in and hit return and kind of come out of that last cell, it always looked like the very last cell on the report was blank if you were uploading it into another system. So if you want the system to go ahead and kind of hit return and get, enter that data and get out of that last cell, then if you select trailing carriage return, the system will do that for you. And so maybe the combination of these two items will help you have to do a little bit less formatting if you're running reports and then uploading them into different systems. All right. Let's see. So journal entry on multiple tickets. This one is brand new, hot off the presses. So when you are in the activity tickets queue, and you're looking at all the tickets here, you can use the filters, whatever filters you want to use, to filter it down to the specific tickets that you're looking for. And then you can select multiple tickets. And then if you come up here, now we have an option that says add journal entry for selected. So any of the multiple tickets that you've selected, if you hit this button here, it will open up this dialog box, and you can put your wording for that journal entry right here in the message box. And it's going to put that journal entry on multiple tickets at the same time for you, right from the activity tickets view. So that'll probably save some of you some time. You do have the options here to make it a public journal entry, which means the customer could see it. That is off by default. But if you want the customers to be able to see that journal entry, you would check that box. Visible on customer profile is on by default. And that just means that it's going to put a copy of that journal entry in the notes section of the customer profile. Some of our customers like for it to be there. Some of them think it's a little bit redundant and they don't want it there. They'd rather just see the journal entry on the ticket itself. So either way, this visible on customer profile just says whether or not it's going to create the note on the customer profile or not. And then email copy to user group. If you select that option, it's just going to send a copy of this note to all of the users in the user group that are assigned to those tickets. All right. This is a big one. If you are using our commission agents and commission bundle, this is a customer override of commission plans. So you can now override the agent's commission plan per customer at the customer level. This one's probably huge for our commissioning customers. So It's permission based. And so in the page permissions, the easiest way I find it is go to that page permissions and then search on the word commission. And then under the customer profile section, you'd want to make sure that customer commission and edit commission plan are turned on. And if those permissions are there, then you will see the commission plan at the customer level. So when you are creating a customer brand new from scratch, this field can show up. It'll show up and you can override it. Now, most of you that use our commissions know that every agent has a commission plan tied to it. And that's the way our commissions have always worked in the past. Anytime you add that agent to the customer account, it's going to commission based on the plan that's tied to the agent itself. So in this way, if you've got an agent who sometimes gets different commission plans, that was hard to manage in the past. Now you can just, right from the beginning, select the commission plan that this customer should commission based off of, and then it will override the commission plan that's tied to the agent. And if you do it right from the beginning, then everything works beautifully, and all the services that get turned up with this customer override commission plan. And the agent's commission plan never comes into play. Now, if you go in and edit a customer later on, after it's active, if you decide you need to edit that and change their commission plan, you can edit the customer profile and you can change the commission plan there. Now, the other thing I want to point out is you won't see the commission plan if it's not populated. If you're not seeing it on the customer profile, it's because there's nothing in it. And if you edit the customer profile and then select a commission plan, you would then see it. But if you go in and edit it and change the customer override commission plan, it will not change anything that's already in existence. It will only come into play for any new services that are turned up after you've made the change. If you need to go back and change all of the existing commission plans, you would do that by using that More Edit Service Commission Rules tab, or you can put in a ticket with our client success team and they can help you understand how to do that. But the commission plan, if you put it in from the beginning, it works for everything. If you change it later on during the life cycle of the customer, it's only going to come into play for anything new that's turned up after that. If you need it to apply to the older services, then you would need to change those manually. If you leave the commission plan blank at the customer level, it just reverts to the standard behavior and it's going to apply the commissions that are tied to the agent. The commission plans all do have to be created. So if you want to override this to something different, you do have to make sure that you've already set up that commission plan so that it shows up in the drop-down list so that you can choose it. And again, if you don't want to use this functionality, you just don't give anybody the permissions and nobody will ever see it. So you don't have to use it, but if you want to use it, those permissions will turn that ability on. It's just more information about that same one. Yep. The last point that I want to make, or one of the last points, is that in case you guys haven't noticed it, we do have a new Rev.io video training library. If you click on the green help button right there in the upper right-hand corner of Rev.io, it opens up the help center. If you don't see the items right away, if you click on this little triple horizontal line icon, it opens it up and you'll be able to see things. There is a welcome to Rev.io video guided tour for new users here. And these three items here are sort of the basics of Rev.io. They each have playlists behind them. So this is a great starting point for any new users in the system. If you hire new people and you need to get them trained, this is the perfect place to start. It's like the general overview of Rev.io. There's also written instruction in here. These items are all written instructions for the basic functions in Rev.io. And then there's also this video training library down here. And if you open that up, there are tons of videos in there in playlists for most of the different functions in your company. So if somebody needs collections information or that kind of thing, there'll be a playlist for that, how to set it up, how to configure it, and how to use it. And again, tons of written documentation as well. And even some of the written documentation now, if you open up this customer account management. There's an article called Creating a New Customer, and there's written information in here. And if there's ever a video training library link that it corresponds, you'll see that video link right there within the written documentation as well. And this is evolving. We're adding more and more content all the time. So make sure that, you know, if something's not there now, feel free to let us know what you're looking for. But watch this space, because this will be changing as we go. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was release notes. So all of the items that I talked about today were released in release notes in Rev.io. And I want to show you how to get there. Always check for new releases. So in that same help center that we were on before, you'll see these icons at the top. Again, if you don't see them, you can toggle using the 3 horizontal line icon. But the release notes will be in what's new. It's like a little present there wrapped up for you. So anything that's new in Rev.io, this is where you'll see the release notes. And when you click on that, there's also an option to subscribe to release notes. So the product team sends those out after every sprint now. So if you subscribe, you'll get the emails as well, and you won't have to remember to go and check for them in the what's new area. But that's how you're going to stay the most up to date. And then quarterly, we're going to have these webinars so that we go over them and I kind of show you a little bit more in detail what each one of them does. A lot of the things that I talked about today were the result of Rev.io ideas. So if you're not familiar with Rev.io ideas, if you hover over your icon in Rev.io, you'll see a link for Rev.io ideas. And when you open that up, Rev.io ideas is a place where you can watch what customers have asked for. If you have your own ideas about something that would make the system work better for you or for your team, you can add ideas. So you can see popular ideas, top ideas, you can search for ideas, and you can also add ideas here. So if you have items that you think would make the product better for everybody, go ahead and add your own idea. And you can watch your ideas, watch other people's ideas. And this is where we get a lot of the content that we have completed over the last few months, comes straight from this Rev.io ideas function. All right, Leslie, do we have any questions that we need to talk about?
I have answered all of the questions that have come in, Lori, so we could wait another minute or two and see if anything pops up.
Okay. Were there any that we should talk about, do you think? Maybe other people might want to know.
There was one that was about adjustments, and it was regarding the effective date. And I wasn't sure about that one, so I did a little testing to get an answer to the attendee that asked about that one. And it seems like the effective date shows as today's date when you're approving it, even though you may put in a data point when you're submitting it. So I want to do a little bit more testing on that and see if there's some functionality we might want to improve there. So I told the attendee we would follow up on that one.
Okay.
Doesn't look like anything else has come in.
Okay, great. Well, I hope this has been helpful for you all. We thank you so much for your time. We know your time is valuable. Again, I encourage you to use that Rev.io ideas functionality to let us know what you're thinking. If you've got ideas on how to make the product better, everybody will benefit from that. So make sure that you're using that functionality. And again, using that help button will get you answers and be able to keep you up to date on all of the latest release notes. We appreciate you joining us today. Thank y'all so much.
Thanks, everyone.